Hogstye.
Hey everybody, it is Alex coming to you after the Washington football team got their butts whipped by the Kansas City Chiefs. It wasn't as bad of an ass kicking as I thought it would be, but it was still a nice bad ass kicking. And that was probably the highlight of the week for the Washington football team too.
Sadly,
this team, it's hard to say, was the on-the-field experience more embarrassing or the off-the-field experience more embarrassing? We'll get into that right now. It's Alex and Steve here with you. Steve, how you doing? How you feeling after that game?
I'm neutral, man. I keep telling everybody these games like this.
You've killed all your emotions.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I destroyed it a long time ago. Covering the Hogstye, we started this so excited, years ago, and we can cover this. Maybe we can become media, at this, and our team's going to win. And, then it
They did win those first 2 years. It was the only 2 years in Snyder's tenure they've won 2 seasons in a row.
Right, they're by Washington standards, they were good.
Yes.
But and then the years since, it's like, scandal after scandal and disaster after disaster, and like Satan himself presiding over the team, and then Satan's minions working for him. It's just, all my emotions have long since been destroyed.
See, I don't think it's Satan presiding, because Satan would actually pull it off, where this is more like Gilligan from Gilligan's Island is presiding over the team.
Or maybe Satan's like bastard stepchild brother who just isn't quite good enough.
The idiot brother that he has.
Satan's idiot brother at the helm. There you go.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right, well, I think we got to talk about the off-the-field thing first, because it hadn't even come out when we recorded the Hogstye on Wednesday, and then they announced it the next day that, we're going to retire the number 21. We're going to retire Sean Taylor's jersey, and we're going to do that at the game this week. Yeah, great. So here you go.
I mean, and I just watched, because the NFL insists on not allowing anybody to watch these games easily, except if you're in the home market, so I have to cheat and watch live, hacked streams for these games.
Right.
So I just saw the Sean Taylor thing on YouTube right before we recorded, and I thought that was humiliating and total embarrassment.
It was sloppily done.
But the big picture thing, though, I mean, the team ought to be ashamed of themselves. They don't deserve any leeway at all. They've long since burned through that, and so it's pretty apparent that they were trying to distract from the total chaos going on in the building by, hey, let's throw out Sean Taylor. They should have done it. They should have announced it months ago.
Sure.
And done it up, because again, that ceremony was embarrassing. It really was. At least what I saw of a 5-minute YouTube video was totally embarrassing.
Well,
the team and Jason, I'm sorry, but Jason put that apology letter out, struggle letter out Friday that was totally transparent. The whole thing is just humiliating.
It is. Now you were saying how you out of market couldn't see it. Yeah, you couldn't even see it in market because they don't even do that. I mean, the NFL is rather than maybe take a few minutes to do hey, they're retiring Sean Taylor's jersey on, CBS or Fox or whoever. I didn't see anything about it on those, broadcasts.
Like 24 hours,
right.
That's the problem. I mean, and to be fair, I'm sure the team probably live streamed it on their YouTube page.
Yeah, no one watches that.
Right, but it was probably there, but I didn't know that. Again, if they had planned this, they could have planned it with the network, and the network could have cut away briefly from the retirement thing, but it was probably too late by the time all this got planned out.
At least put it on, like you have a relationship with not Comcast, what are they called now? NBC Sports. You could have at least had it there, something.
You
watched it. I watched it. On YouTube? It was pathetic. I mean, and let's be honest. Jersey retirements. It's a great gesture. I think retiring someone's number. It's significant. You shouldn't do it often. But it is kind of a lame thing. The ceremony itself is never very exciting. I've never really seen one where I'm like, oh my god, that was amazing,
But considering it's Sean Taylor, they could have done it up better. I mean, they could have had a video. They could have given him his own day. It was Alumni Day, and they just tossed that in there as a goodwill gesture, considering the disaster that went on all week.
Well, and I'm assuming they're going to do this for the next couple of years. I think that's going to be part of what their marketing scheme is.
Probably. I mean, the team does need to retire some more jerseys. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing. What are we down? We're up to Sammy Baugh. I guess they retired Bobby Mitchell, right?
Yeah, Sammy, Bobby, and Sean Taylor now are the first three.
I mean,
they
they've
need
got
to do Daryl. They need to do Art.
Sonny,
yeah.
Joe Theismann,
So Sonny is an interesting one. I was discussing this with our old buddy Rick and actually two Ricks, Rick Snyder and Richard Rogers, who used to do a show with.
Yeah.
On Twitter. Like Sonny spent about a half of his career with the Eagles. Like I kind of almost wouldn't retire his jersey just because he wasn't a lifelong player here.
He's still probably the best quarterback Washington ever had, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would still say Sammy was the best.
Maybe Sammy
different
number
eras
one,
though.
But right, I mean, Sammy's a historical great, but I mean, of the last 50 years, he's probably the best one.
Oh yeah, no question there. Although actually, we're kind of getting past that 50-year mark with him, if you really think about it.
Well, we're getting close. Yeah, I mean, he was mid to late 70s, so yeah. But point is, I mean, at a minimum, they've got to do Joe Theismann, Sonny Jurgensen, Art Monk, Darryl Green, and probably Riggo. Yeah, him too. Yeah. So those five. I mean, you can't have like 20 numbers retired, but you can do some.
Would Charlie Taylor get in that list?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, him too.
Yeah.
So what is that? 6?
There's a couple.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So we both agree the actual ceremony pretty disappointing.
Yes.
The rollout very disappointing. My one beef is with the fans' reaction over the last 2 days, where they are having a little temper tantrum about this ceremony. Like, oh, I don't have time. No, you have 3 days. Just go on StubHub, buy a ticket, go. I can get it if you're in California or out in Texas where you are, Steve. You getting a plane ticket, that's a bit much in short notice. But for anybody who's within a 5-hour drive, you have 3 days notice. That's plenty of time if you really wanted to go.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I obviously haven't seen the temper tantrum, but I mean, they're right to be irritated, but at the same time, if you really wanted to go, you had ample opportunity to do so. It's not like this game was sold out. No, they have the worst attendance in the league, and you had a couple days to figure it out. I mean, they announced it on Thursday. You had Friday and Saturday. If
there were probably 15,000 seats still available at game day. So
at least that. Probably
if you were bitching, stop your bitching.
Yeah, I couldn't have got there. And somebody like me might have made a decision had we known back in like April or whatever, or May or June. Yeah, granted. And again, I mean, the team deserves no benefit of the doubt whatsoever.
Oh, no. Those are two totally separate discussions in what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, all these Redskins fans in the D.C. area or Washington fans could have gone if they had really wanted to, and they chose not to.
Right. I don't go because I don't like going to that stadium. Like, it's that simple. Also, we do a show, and I don't want to deal with that, like trying to get back right away.
It's make it a lot more complicated.
Sure. All right, let's talk about this game on the field, because even though you and I both predicted they were going to lose this and lose big, and Jamal predicted that, and everybody in the world predicted we were going to lose, they still somehow managed to give you a little bit of hope at the halftime. They're up by 3. They even got a good stop on the first drive at the half. And then, like a succubus, they just ripped your heart out and stomped on it in front of you and in front of your children and your children's children. It just made you feel awful by the end of the game.
Well, it was kind of like watching the team try to commit football suicide and not being able to. I mean, the Chiefs did everything they could to give this game away, and Washington just wouldn't take the bait. Here's the stats real fast, because I like torturing people with this at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, Taylor Heineke was 24 for 39, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 70.7. Rushing, the team was 19 for 94 total. That includes 8 for 45 by J.D. McKissick, 10 for 44 by Antonio Gibson, and Jarrett Patterson was 1 for 5. Passing wise, J.D. McKissick was the leading receiver, 8 for 65. Ricky Seals-Jones, 4 for 58. De'Ami Brown, 3 for 30. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 28 on 8 targets. And it goes down from there. I won't torture you guys too much on that. Kansas City wise, Patrick Mahomes was 32 for 47, 397 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Quarterback rating of 90.5. Rushing wise, Darrell Williams was 21 for 62, 3 yards per carry. Mahomes was 3 for 31 for his part, and team-wise, they were 28 for 109 for 3.9 yards per attempt. In the air, Travis Kelce, an injured and hurting Travis Kelce, still managed to put up 8 for 99 and 11 targets. Tyreek Hill, an injured and hurting Tyreek Hill, put up 9 for 76. McCole Hardman, 4 for 62, and it went down from there. So on defense, the sacks, Cole Holcomb, 1 sack, Chase Young, a sack, Casey Toohill, a sack. That's the 3 sacks. The interceptions were Bobby McKean and Kendall Fuller. Okay, here's the big question.
The punt
Drum
game.
roll, please. Did Tress Way outpunt the entire Washington offense? Yes or no?
I'm going to say no on this one.
It's closer. The answer is no, but it is closer than you think.
I had a feeling it's close, but I'm going to say no.
Tress was 4 for 232, and then Washington was let's see, that is 282 minus 6, so that is 276 total yards. So the Washington was what, 30 something yards ahead of him, for 40 yards ahead. And I just like to point out,
he was like one more really nice punt away.
Right, if they had punted one more time. And in case you didn't grasp this, Washington gave up 500 yards total offense, more than 500 yards, 509 to be specific. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. But yeah, so I mean, my thought again, I mean, Kansas City didn't look sharp at all in this game.
No.
And again, like you pointed out on the game preview, all these interceptions for the most part from Mahomes have been like tipped balls and weird things, and that was the first one that went right off of Tyreek Hill's hands.
All these turnovers by Kansas City are weird, like they're just being sloppy.
Well, that second interception was like the all-time stupidest interception ever.
I was gonna say Gus Frerotte like.
Yes,
is what I would have called it.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Or maybe even Heath Schuler like. Is that more accurate? Gus Frerott's like I'll run into a wall dumb. Heath Schuler's like I don't know what I'm doing dumb, right?
Probably Heath Schuler may be more accurate. And look, here's the thing: if you really sort of add this up, the turnovers are probably a 20-point swing, because both interceptions occurred on Washington's side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
The fumble, or one of those, was on the 6-yard line.
Yeah,
and that was probable touchdown. So let's give Kansas City 2 field goals and a touchdown at least.
Right.
But the minimum of that,
13
points there, maybe more. And then Washington got a touchdown off one of those turnovers. So that's a 20-point swing. This game could have been much worse.
Right.
But for that.
And, in a game of just weird stuff, I want to talk about that Heineke interception at the end of the game. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lineman have an interception before. I don't think I've ever seen a lineman use the offensive tackle as part of his interception like that before, where he uses the tackle to hold on to the ball somehow.
Yeah, that was new. I'd love to say that was like a spectacular one-handed grab by an offensive lineman.
No. It was, I'm going to hold this against the guy until I can kind of control it.
That means his hands were so gigantic that he's able to do that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like he's an octopus with suction cups on his hands.
Right. But football's a weird game where you've never quite seen everything. And all sports have that a little bit. Baseball, every once in a while something happens that surprises you, and football is definitely like that too.
I'd prefer to say that the offensive lineman got a spectacular one-handed grab, just because it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that.
Yes, but all right. Let's start talking about this defense versus that offense. A better day if you were talking about how it looked like they played on the field, it looked like they were playing a little bit better for the most part, except for Landon Collins still doesn't know what he's doing. No one knows what Landon Collins is doing. There was a play, I think it was Hill. No, it was Kelce. He somehow did a loop move on Landon Collins, where Collins somehow, I feel like he missed tackling him twice in one play. It was the weirdest thing I've seen on that Kelce first down at one point.
I mean, aesthetically, yeah, maybe it looked a little better, but the results were terrible.
Yeah, the results are no different.
Well, think about this. Kansas City had 3 turnovers.
Right.
All in Washington's side. 2 in the red zone, or one was on the 25, I think, and the other was on like the 5 or 6 yard line. They really only had, if you look at it, they really only were stopped on 3 drives. Truly stopped by Washington's defense on 3. I'm looking at
Right.
the play history here. The first
3 true
possession,
stops, 3 turnovers is what you're saying.
yeah, and one of those was the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't
Where
count.
they were just trying to kill the clock. So if you go back to the beginning, of this game, they got 1 punt in the first half, 2 drives were stopped there were 3 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So they really didn't stop Kansas City at all, but for 1 possession. And in the second half, for opening possession was a punt stopped there by Washington's defense, and then the last one was just a clock thing. So I mean, they really didn't stop Kansas City at all. And I put a lot of it. We knew they would get a decent pass rush, I think,
Yeah.
although they still didn't really get Mahomes at least one of those was a coverage sack, I think.
Yeah, but they had about 6 or 7 other hits on Mahomes. So,
Yeah,
you know,
they did
yeah.
get better. They were better. That's yes.
Yes, they were
And
better.
I think a lot of these busts were secondary. I mean, he was picking apart the zone.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
William Jackson got beat 1-on-1 by what's Robinson, I think it was, on that touchdown, or the not
The one at
touchdown, but
towards the end,
yeah,
where he also got called for holding somehow, and he got beat at the same
yeah.
time.
It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
He's been a huge
The irony
disappointment.
of that was he was putting back looking for a flag, and it got flagged on him.
He got a flag. He was looking for a flag, and he got a flag.
Right. Right.
I mean, you really want to say it like that.
That
So,
yes, that's a way to say it.
and again, I mean, they still are down to basically 1 linebacker. Because if you notice how many times there were 6 DBs on the field,
Yeah. Although
basically
Davis
dime
played a lot
coverage.
more. I saw him out there a lot more. Although what ever happened in like your plan where you had plays where Davis was covering Tyreek Hill?
How'd that happen? I
Yeah.
mean, whose
That
idea was that? I'd like
in
to know.
the this stuff should never happen category, any linebacker covering Tyreek Hill is a bad idea.
And
Much
since you
less
did,
your struggling rookie.
yeah, especially Davis. So, but what I didn't do is read the defensive
Oh yeah,
stats.
yeah. Why don't you do that too?
You know who was the leading tackler on the day?
Was it Davis?
It was Davis, 11 tackles,
Okay.
5 solo, 11 tackles total, and he had was credited with a quarterback hit. Also,
Oh,
Cole
okay.
Holcomb, 10. So what I would like to, and Cam Curl at 9, Kendall Fuller 8. It goes down from there.
Curl
But
played a lot more today.
I won't be able to get the snap counts percentages until tomorrow. I would like to see the percentage of plays Davis played. Um, just based on these 5 solo, 11 total tackles tells me maybe he played more because he was only at like 20% or something last week.
Yeah, I felt like he and Curl were out there a lot more this week, and those are guys who I think myself and most fans have been saying we need to see these guys out there instead of Landon Collins
Curl's
and
been out
Bostic
there.
and
Curl's been out there basically
yeah,
the
but
whole time.
he's not been he's usually the third safety when you look at the snap counts.
Well, if you look at last week's snap counts,
Yeah,
Collins was 100%, Curl was 89%, and then McCain was 95%. And so and it was Jackson 100%, Fuller 100%, Collins 100%, McCain
they're
95,
basically
Curl
playing
89.
three safeties all the time now. Yes.
Yes, whatever you call it. Yes, that's what they're doing. And then none of the rest of the guys played St. Jude's, a handful of plays. So I mean, Curl and McCain have both been out there consistently, and I
Right.
think that's what happened this week too. Basically, that play because they know they don't have 3 linebackers.
Right. They don't have 3 linebackers.
They barely have 2.
Right. Right. But yeah, it is interesting. So, I kind of, let's see. I did a spur of the moment poll towards the end of the game. Who
Okay.
rides the bench? Who needs to ride the bench first? Collins or Jackson at this point?
Neither. I'd vote neither. Was there a neither?
No, I did either or. I don't do
Okay.
neither.
Okay, well, I wouldn't have voted in the poll had I seen it because I think the answer is neither because there's no replacement for either one.
I think there is you can replace Collins with Curl and Everett or something.
Curl's already out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I wouldn't have voted in the poll.
Yeah.
What did the fans vote though? Curious.
Right now, Collins is leading it 64% to 35%.
I think some of these fans don't totally understand what's going on in the secondary.
I think the problem is I can understand not wanting to replace Jackson because I don't think there is a replacement for him right now. In his case, there's no depth at corner. There's a little bit more depth at safety at this point, but not much.
If you called to change your effort depth, I guess. I don't know
Yeah.
if I do, but I mean.
Oh, and isn't Forrest coming back? He's off IR now
Yeah,
at
but he went
least.
there today, I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So
No,
he's still on IR.
right. Yeah.
But Derek Force was terrible in the preseason. It's not like that's going to be an improvement,
Terrible versus another terrible? I don't
Collins
know.
is not. Look, Collins is still a pro. Part of it is on the coaching for sort of misusing him in times, I
Oh,
think.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, he's a problem. I think it's more like Landon Collins is the most visible problem, not the only problem or the biggest problem. The biggest
Right.
problem is the system as a whole. These players aren't communicating well. They don't know their assignments. I blame the players. You blame the coaches last week. Pick your poison. It's probably some of both.
I would say if there's a communication problem, that's a wholesale problem. That falls on both sides, definitely, to
Probably.
some extent.
What could Washington have done better today? I mean, when you give up 397 yards in the air,
Right.
I mean, you
But
knew Travis Kelce was going to be a problem. He could have been a much bigger problem. He was hurt half the day, it seemed like.
right.
I don't think there really was anything they could have done other than capitalize on the turnovers.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like that first drive where Kansas City went 95 yards, there was one chance at a real interception, and then there was that it wasn't really a fumble, but there were a couple plays there where they could have stopped them. And they even did get get them to a fourth down at one point, and then they just didn't do anything on fourth down. They let them pick it up. But
I mean, I think we need to just face the fact that Washington's vaunted defense is terrible.
Yeah.
Overall as a whole, and unless, yes, the defensive line certainly is not even close to half as bad as the rest of these units, but let's not pretend they're living up to expectations either. They're not getting home nearly enough on these quarterbacks.
They're getting better. I think it looks like to me the last 2 weeks they've been better than the first couple weeks,
they're
but
drastically underperforming though.
Yes, they are.
They were better rush defense wise, but also Clyde Edwards-Helaire wasn't out there. Darrell Williams averages 3 yards a carry all the time. So it's,
right.
He pretty much performed to average. And Patrick Mahomes sort of did Patrick Mahomes things. And so, their run defense, which is principally the front four, I think more than anything, was, Kansas City, they were neither plus nor minus on Kansas City's run game.
No, they really weren't.
Yeah.
Anything else to talk about with this defense? I think it was just you got a couple turnovers, you got a couple sacks, but you still let a bunch of yards and points get on the board.
I don't even give them too much credit for either of those interceptions because
they're tips.
It wasn't even a tip. It was like it hit Tyreek Hill directly dead in the hands. And somehow he had to make an effort not to catch that pass.
Right.
And granted, was it Fuller got it? Good for you, but it careened right towards you. And the other one was just, again, the stupidest play in NFL history.
It was a gimme, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like they were great, somebody jumped the route and, made a great play. It was just lucky. And it was just Kansas City stupidity.
What? I'll take them. I'd rather get lucky time, but
yeah, of course I'll take them. But this is why Kansas City has lost all these games. These 3 games is what we saw today. A better team, such as Buffalo last week, did take advantage of this, and Washington couldn't because they're not a good team.
Yep. All right. Well, why don't we flip sides and talk about this offense that did not take good advantage? I will give them. I'm okay with the fact that you didn't really get anything off that one interception towards the end of the first half. Like you took one deep shot and then you ran the clock out because you only had 20-something seconds left. That's fine. I'll live. At least you took a deep shot and didn't take a knee. So I can live with that. But 7 points off the other 2 turnovers was disappointing. You really, you at least should have gotten the field goal at the first half. Also,
I'm sure somebody's going to call for Dustin Hopkins' head.
I'm sure, but you know what? He makes that great. You lose 31-19 instead.
Doesn't matter. I was only second kick on the year. Okay.
Yeah. I've always said it. If you want to blame the kicker for this team's problems, go ahead. It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
It
I
could
don't know
be
what a
David
good
Akers or
analogy
Adam
is.
Vinatieri. Wouldn't make a difference right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a tidal wave coming and you forgot to put up one of 100 sandbags,
Exactly.
Um, to me, I mean, we saw sort of more of the same. There's a
Yeah.
lack of execution. Taylor Heineke misses too many balls. I think they're going to have to go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick whenever he's healthy in a few weeks, hopefully, because these last 3 weeks, Heineke hadn't cut it. I don't think.
Well, the last 2 weeks,
2 weeks, yeah.
3 weeks ago, he did okay. That win against Atlanta.
And the run game, the offensive line and the running backs largely didn't execute against one of probably the worst rushing defense in the league.
Right.
If you take away Antonio's 115-yard run, well, now you're at 9 for 29 yards, which is a little over 3 yards per carry on average.
Sure. I mean, so here's where I'm at when I look at Heineke. I think you were with me too, that we wanted to see what he had this season, especially since they didn't draft a quarterback. So why not? And I think it's fair to say this is probably what his limit is. He is a backup who you can expect to fill in for a couple of games. Long-term starter, no. Long-term backup, maybe not even that. But, and there have been guys like this before in the league who you can trust them for 3-4 games to come in.
A string of them in Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm talking like in the history of the NFL, there's hundreds of guys that, and there's nothing wrong with him being that. But yes, the arm strength issues becoming more and more prevalent. I don't know if he's just tired. It looks like his balls don't have the same zip to them that they did earlier in the season, which is interesting. You wouldn't think that.
I think he's regressing to his mean, is what it is.
Yeah,
he overplayed his talent level against the Bucs last year in the playoffs for one game, and good for him. And this is what you can get from guys like this. You'll see spectacular every once in a while, but for the most part, you're going to see middle tier to middling and below average. And
I mean, I got news for you. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the same quarterback. He's just older.
Well, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's a lot better than that. I mean, had much higher highs. He's been around a lot longer. He's got a much stronger arm.
I don't think he's had much higher highs. He's
had
equally high highs. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick has never been like I'm going to throw it for 450 yards type quarterback.
Well, he is on occasion. He is. No, I mean certainly Ryan is not the future. But I think he's the best quarterback on this roster. I think he absolutely is.
The future is drafting a quarterback in the first round in 2022. That's the future at this point.
I think we're trying to rival the Browns for most quarterback.
Oh yeah, of course.
Drafted busts.
Yep. No question there.
Because they've drafted in the past 30 years, is it 3 first-round quarterbacks, right?
30 years, 4.
Well, Heath Schuler, Robert Griffin, and Dwayne Haskins. Who's the 4th?
Well, okay, hold on. So Schuler.
Oh, it's going to be there
Ramsey
is one more.
And
It's
Jason Campbell too.
Campbell,
so
yeah.
5.
So that's Campbell 5. Wasn't a bust. Well, Ramsey wasn't a first-round pick, was he?
Yeah, it was. 31st pick or something like that.
Are you sure?
Yep. Late first round. We traded back in the draft, and that's who Spurrier picked, I believe.
Okay. Well, I mean, of those 5, Campbell had a decent career.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't great, but he wasn't a total bust.
No, he wasn't a bust.
Sadly, he's probably the best of those 5.
Yeah, okay. So you're right. So 32nd overall.
I said 31st, 32nd. You're right.
Yeah, 32nd. But yeah, I thought he was I don't know. I thought he was second round or something. So, but anyway, of those 5, 3 were clear bust. Although Robert Griffin somehow had a very good season and then flamed out. Call that what you want. It's still a bust. He's not here. And the other 2 were back of the first round guys, so you don't necessarily expect to be all pros or anything.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's like, at least we're not the Browns. The Browns have drafted more.
Yeah.
Maybe that's our new saying. We're not the Browns.
Or actually, who we're not is the Jets. I feel like the Jets have done it every 3 seasons.
The Jets is where NFL careers go to die.
Right.
Of course, so is Washington, but
yeah, that's true. Well, so anyway, outside of Heineke, you mentioned the run game before and how they didn't take advantage. Gibson's clearly hurting. Why aren't you using your other running backs more? Like they used McKissick for a series or 2. I get that, but if Gibson is limp, you got to take a long-term approach to the season sometimes. You have Patterson, you have McKissick, just lean on them. If Gibson has like a shin issue, don't put him out there. Don't make it
Well, he also
worse.
went out for a while, and it got worse there,
Right.
for a while. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, McKissick only had 8 carries. Patterson had 1. Gibson had 10.
Right.
And we said in the beginning that Kansas City's run defense is horrible. It's one of the worst
Mm-hmm.
in football. They need to take advantage of it, and they utterly failed to do that.
They did.
Completely.
And when you can tell Heineke's just struggling, why aren't you leaning on it more?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I wasn't impressed. Certainly Kansas City got better in the second half, but it was also Washington's execution got a lot worse. But I
Yeah.
mean, their defense makes a lot of mistakes. I think
We saw it on that one touchdown pass. That was such an obvious mistake by the defense there
yeah.
that they took advantage of.
I think a good team. I think Kansas City's going to have trouble with good teams, which they have had so far this year. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Washington isn't in that category; they're a bad team. But I don't know if Kansas City's going to make it back unless they have a dramatic uptick in their ability to execute and not mess up, zone coverages and all sorts of
Yeah.
things. So they didn't impress me on defense at all, despite the fact that Washington only scored 13 points.
No. I'm with you there. Um. Yeah. I am not sold on Scott Turner and his play calling and whatever offensive philosophy he's running here. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Uh, the fact that we only do everything out of shotgun these days really annoys me as an old school football fan a little bit. And I get they're doing that to help Heineke, but you got to occasionally, switch that up. And they aren't really doing it, man. I just don't get it.
Well, I mean, it's not working.
No, it's not.
Blame whoever you want. I tend to blame the players more on this, but certainly Scott Turner is not blameless in this at all. But here's, I hate to say this, but really, if you look at Ron Rivera's coaching record, I
Yeah.
mean, he was in Carolina from 2011 to 2021 and had 3 winning seasons.
Yep.
2013, 2015, and 2017.
Right.
And in those, he had Cam Newton at his prime, one of which was an MVP caliber season, and he went to the Super Bowl on the back of Cam Newton. So, I mean, we love Ron, and certainly he's a leader in all of that. But I don't know how much leeway we should give him in terms of performance.
Well, so here's the one thing I'll say, and this ties into what we were talking about at the start of the show. It kind of, I think, wraps it up a little neatly in a way. This team is trying to dig themselves out of such a dumpster fire from the last 20 years, but really the last decade with Bruce Allen. It seems like most of this terrible stuff that they've been doing off the field, it's the last 10 with Bruce. Ron and Jason Wright, for whatever flaws they do have, I still do believe they're trying to right that part of the ship. Hey, let's not sexually harass people. Let's not, what dumpster fire is really on them? Maybe the Sean Taylor thing, which on a scale of 1 to 10, botching the jersey retirement's a 1 in my
I don't know
mind.
if I would say it's a 1, but in the scale of Washington disasters, it's certainly pretty low. Other
Right.
teams, this would be a big disaster, but Washington disasters, it's almost like a hef, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Considering what happened in the past 7 days, they got raided by the DEA,
right,
and had leaked racist emails. So the fact that they botched the Sean Taylor thing is like a minor. It's almost a victory.
Okay, and maybe we can say the DA thing is a little bit on Ron because that was his guy. He brought it.
Yeah.
But overall, I still trust them to try and clean up that side of things.
I don't know.
And I'm willing to give them a little more leeway for another year or two just to say, let's get all that stuff taken care of, and then we can move forward.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not saying anybody should be fired, but
no. I don't. You're not that kind of guy. I'm the guy who has those reactions. You're supposed to be the level-headed one, right?
Yeah, but all the same, I think my ability to continually forgive is waning a little bit here because it's sort of like
understandably.
we had one massive raging dumpster fire for 10 years and more. And now what we've done is set the new dumpster on fire. And it's
Right.
not a raging inferno yet, but the old dumpster is gone and the new dumpster is now burning too. So I mean, I mean,
We're
my
still trying to put out the old dumpster fire.
I
That's
was
the
very
sad truth. It's
I
been a
was v-
year.
I was very high on Jason in the beginning,
Right. And
and
you less so
my
are now, I know.
less so now. My patience with him is waning with every passing day with him. So, but
Right.
from on the field perspective, I mean, because we're supposed to be game recap here, but I
Yeah.
mean, what can you say, about a game like this? Um, I mean, once again, I'd also like to point out once again, Terry McLaurin did not have a good day. 4 for
No.
20 out on 8 targets. Some of those aren't on him. I mean,
He did have that one big drop that they made up for, luckily on the 3rd and long.
right, yeah, that
Yeah.
drop was on him. But I mean, they just played him well. Those
Hmm.
corners played him pretty well, and what can you say? I mean, he didn't
Well,
separate.
without Curtis Samuel out there, without even Cam Sims out there, teams know they can just key off on him.
Because what are they going to
Humphreys
worry
is not a
about?
threat. Or
De'Ami
not,
Brown? Are they going
yeah,
to? No.
yeah. I mean, it's the same problem that we had last year, only somehow worse. That teams are just keying off on McLaurin, man, and no one else is able to get. Well, you know what it is? They don't have Logan Thomas anymore. Logan Thomas was enough of a pull to open up McLaurin a bit. Without him, they can talk about how much they like Ricky Seals-Jones, and he does some nice things, but you need Logan. Logan Thomas is a threat. You know.
Well, I got two things to that. One, last week they just put Marshawn Lattimore
Lattimore,
on
yeah.
him 1-on-1, and Marshawn Lattimore beat him.
Right.
This week, yeah, maybe more so it was sort of a team effort, but Ricky Seals-Jones is producing at the same clip that Logan Thomas did, roughly. I mean, he had 4 for 58. That's a pretty solid Logan Thomas day.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers are, but I'm talking also about like just are you worried about Ricky Seals-Jones like you would be about Logan Thomas getting
No,
open all the
nobody's worried
time?
about Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about game planning more than anything
Okay.
else. You know, if you don't have to game plan for Logan Thomas, you can just game plan for Terry. That's going to hurt Terry.
This team just does not have a lot of highly rated ball handling. I don't like that term, skill position players. They don't have a lot of ball handling players that scare anybody. The only one that scares anybody is Terry McLaurin.
Right.
None of the rest of these guys. We like Antonio Gibson because we've been watching him. We're Washington fans and all that. He's a great story. And he's putting up decent numbers, but he's not scaring anybody.
Right. Same with J.D. McKissick. Like
Yeah.
he J.D. McKissick. So, and this is where I get annoyed with Scott Turner. If you're utilizing J.D. McKissick right, he's getting a lot more targets than he probably has now because he's such a good passing threat, and they're not utilizing him that way that
Well,
much.
today they did though,
Yeah.
because I mean there were we're gonna take out. Let's see. So there were 19 called runs and 39 passes, and so that's 58 plays.
Mm-hmm.
And then of those 58 plays, McKissick had 8 carries and 10 targets, so 18. So his usage percentage
That's
is
incredibly high, actually. Yes.
18 of what did I say? 58
58.
plays.
Yeah. So
I mean, so that's it's less than 20%, but that's a pretty high percentage.
it's about a third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, so
I
that
think
is high, but like
yeah,
when you
it's
have a guy
30%.
like that, you're expecting him to kind of be. You can utilize him like a Kamara, or if you want to go back to a Deuce Staley, Brian Westbrook, with if you want to go back to like great dual threat running backs,
I thought they did better today, is my
Yeah,
point, than they have in recent
yeah, it's
weeks, I
hot and
think.
cold with that.
But the bottom line is this offense just doesn't have a ton of talent. And I mean, in Curtis Samuel, it's almost becoming a wasted season with this guy.
It basically is at this
He
point.
hadn't
Yeah,
practiced at all. I thought it was funny when the announcer last week, was it Jay Feely? I can't remember whoever said it. They got Curtis Samuel back, not realizing that they never had him in the first place.
right,
You know,
right.
back meaning that they got him back from the day he signed and then didn't show up again until 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
And I don't blame him. I mean, he's been injured, But again, I think it's almost a wasted season with this guy. Is he going to come in and all of a sudden be spectacular after barely playing at all?
Right. I mean, no one's got any rhythm with him at this point. So.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we finish this thing up? Let's do game balls.
Pretty negative. I wish we could be more positive, but I
Oh.
mean, if the bottom line is
here's the positive. You at least hung in for the first half. Like I assume they'd be down 20 points at the half. So
only because the 3 Kansas City turnovers.
Right.
Our predictions would have been right.
If even I know.
2 of those turnovers hadn't happened, and 2 of them were really dumb turnovers.
Right.
The fumble, sure. I mean, it happens, and good play by Washington, but neither of the interceptions should have happened.
Right. And I mean, same thing can be said about Washington's 2 turnovers. Like the Heineke interception is just a weird fluke thing that didn't matter anyway.
Right.
And the Gibson does have a bit of a fumble problem that needs to be talked about, and I don't think
that was a legit fumble. I mean, but yeah, the Heineke play was just weird. But yeah,
Gibson's had more than one fumble now this year, and they're always legit, but you don't want to see that.
We need to have him walk around with like glue on his hands or something during the week.
Yeah. Do a little bit of what is it, high school running back stuff? Like
yeah.
Carry the ball with you into class, kid. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's do game balls and get out of here.
Okay.
Let's start. I'll start first if you want a minute.
Yeah, give me a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I am gonna start first, and on defense, I'm gonna go legit here. Chase Young, you get a game ball. You got that sack. You did a lot of pressure. You didn't do anything stupid today that pissed me off. You even did the little you taped up your mask like Sean Taylor as a tribute, and then you got told you had to undo it because you were going to get a fine. But you did that, which is
that
nice.
Why you did that? I noticed he took it off in the second half.
That's what I saw on social media. Is people were saying that he was going to get fined if he kept it on there.
Okay.
I don't know if that was an official thing or if that's just fan rumor, but it wouldn't surprise me. You know how the NFL hates people doing things that are fun or harmless.
The NFL, I can't remember who it was. I wrote it in a column.
Right.
The NFL fined one of our rookie undrafted free agents, I don't know, 3 years ago maybe, in the preseason for having a Nike logo on his undershirt thing on a sleeve. That was an unapproved Nike logo. Nike being a major NFL sponsor. Which
Nike
is just so
sponsors
stupid.
all the uniform stuff, and
but it wasn't. It was the logo was not one that was so yeah. I mean, Chase probably could have got fined. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Remember they actually fined Sean Taylor for wearing his socks wrong at one point.
Yeah.
The NFL does so many stupid things.
Yeah, that's okay that Colin Kaepernick wears pig cops or pigs cut socks. That's okay though.
Yeah, but that was at practice too, which there's that. So anyway, Chase Young gets that game ball. On offense is actually tougher today. I guess I'll give it to Ricky Seals-Jones for that touchdown catch. He did kind of sneak past the defense there, and he kind of beat one guy to the end zone. So good play for you, Ricky Seals-Jones. Like I said, you're still not Logan Thomas, but you're a good number 2 tight end. It's turning out. So
fair enough.
There you go.
Chase Young has just irritated me this year because he talked a bunch of smack and he's not producing. And good for you. You got one. You got one sack, on a little bit of a coverage sack, I guess. But regardless, so I'm not going with him. On defense, I'm going Jamin Davis. Not because he made a huge impact on the game, but this for the first time, he actually got a significant number of tackles. Credited with 11 by ESPN.
That could be a sign of development. We can hope.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, and nobody, just to be clear, nobody deserves a game ball. But we do this. It's almost a joke at this point.
I was thinking one of these days we're going to switch it up. Every time they lose, it's who's running laps or something. We'll
maybe that might be more appropriate. Offense, I'm going to go J.D. McKissick. I do agree that Ricky Seals-Jones is a good choice. He had the touchdown and all that. But just to throw it, be a little different. I mean, he did have 16 total touches for 110 yards. So that's a quality day. So J.D. McKissick gets both deflated game balls for sure. And the other thing is nobody on Kansas City really deserves, to get Washington's game ball either because they didn't play well by their standards.
No, that's true. And that's the ironic truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone on Kansas City was going to get one, it's the guy who did the interception off of, Landon Collins, Lucas's shoulder.
This was, for those of you who have kids who played baseball, what happened today was a day in which your team is playing up at a level in select baseball that they really don't belong in, but they're trying to get experience, and you came across the best team in that upper division who played their B team, didn't play very well because they knew they didn't have to, and still beat you handily. That's what happened today.
Right. I think that's it. That's fair. That's about where we're at. All right, guys. We will.
Can I ask you real quick one more quick question before you go?
Oh, sure.
Compared to expectations, because right before we came on the air, I was looking back at my predictions, which are public. If you want to see how we did, it's on the Hogsty under Hogsty Projects 2021 predictions.
But that's where we always put the fan predictions. Yes.
Yeah, fan predictions there. But for my part, I had them at 1-5 at this point. Meaning, and the Giants game was my fault. And frankly, I should have been right on that. They got lucky. But so they're about where I thought they would be. But for you, Alex, I didn't expect them to be very good. And not just because I'm an eternal pessimist. I just legitimately didn't think. I thought they were overrated last year. For you, Alex, where are we in terms of your personal expectations with this team now here in week 6?
I mean, look, you know, if you're talking about where I predicted them to be 3-3 at this point, so I'm only one game off. If you really want to think about it,
yeah, but forget the record. I mean, you know, just sort of where are they compared to where you thought they'd be? Because again, they're about what I thought they were for me.
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't think their defense would be this bad. I would say that right off the bat. You know, I thought the defense would probably be more in the middle of the pack of the league.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
so that's been really frustrating. The only thing I'm really, really disappointed in, the fact that this offense still has no rhythm. And I didn't have a lot of faith in Scott Turner, but like I've said it before, to me, an offense that plays well, it's like a symphony or an orchestra where there's like a tempo and a rhythm and everyone's doing this, something that makes sense and you can see it and visualize. Oh, I see, like you're going low, deep, high all the time. And, you know, that's what you're trying to do. I have no clue what Scott Turner's ever trying to do with this offense. There's no sense of rhythm or timing or tempo or like what is it that he wants to be good at? Like, I don't think he wants to be good at anything.
And I don't think he has a talent to be good at anything. That's the problem.
Right. For as much as people like to rip Jay Gruden was great at drawing up routes for the passing tree. And that's what he did. You go back to the Shanahans. They are amazing at that zone run scheme.
Right.
And that's the backbone of what their offenses were.
What's Scott Turner's backbone?
Yeah, I don't think Scott Turner has a backbone. I have no clue. I think he's what is it? Invertebrate.
You know? Yeah, he doesn't have a backbone. He's an invertebrate.
Literal no backbone. So, you know,
and we're not talking about Scott Turner as a man. We're talking about Scott Turner as the offensive play caller.
Right. I'm talking about his offenses. Sure.
Like, what is this team?
Right.
What is this offense doing?
What is your philosophy?
Yeah. I don't think they're very good at anything offensively. They're average at some things. Like, you know, Antonio Gibson's maybe slightly above average running back, I think.
But, okay, so this is where I get frustrated. You have Gibson and you have McKissick. They're both good dual threat running backs. That should be your backbone. You should be throwing the ball to these running backs. There should be running backs out there on pass plays all the time and getting the ball all the time. And that should be the backbone.
They did do that today, though.
They tried to do it, but it doesn't.
Because Gibson had 3 receptions, he had 3 targets, so 13
it doesn't
of 39.
Feel like that's like the heart of the team at the same time. You know what I mean?
And Patterson had 1 more, so that's 14 passes to running backs today.
Right, and I understand that they are doing it, but it still doesn't feel like that's the heart of the team.
Yeah, no, for me, the defense is worse than I thought. I didn't think they were going to be a top tier defense. But I didn't think they were going to be bottom 5.
I didn't think the secondary would be nearly this bad.
No, I didn't either. And I thought the defensive line would be better. But I'm just kind of the reason why I asked is I was looking at the fan predictions here, even Jamal's. Overwhelmingly,
Jamal had us at 4-2 at this point.
Most of the people who sent in predictions, there are a whole bunch of them that had us at 4-2 right now.
Yeah, Mark was dead on. He had us at 2-4. Actually, Mark Bullock so far is undefeated. He's predicted every game right.
Well, and Scamp too. He's hit it too.
Yeah.
And I was only wrong on thanks to a stupid penalty by the Giants.
Tampa, our buddy Tampa had us at 4-1. Or I'm sorry, no.
Not 4-1.
4-2.
4-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there's several people that had us at 4-2. So
Right.
I mean, and some of them are just eternal optimists and they're fans, and God bless you. We're
That's
fans.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
it.
But I just think that it's a sign that this fan base, despite everything that has happened, there's the core group that don't abandon this team because you're a hardcore if you're following us. Following any of
Right.
these fan podcasts, you're hardcore. They keep optimistic every offseason in spite of every possible indicator to the contrary. So I mean, and I admire that in some way, but this
Right.
team and Ron Rivera's leadership has not panned out so far. So I didn't want to
So
ramble.
far.
I was just curious.
I mean, the one thing I wonder about is how's he being viewed in the locker room too. Like, I always say the biggest thing for coach is you can't lose the locker room. Once you lose the locker room, they should just fire you that day because like you can't get it back once you
Yeah,
lost it.
that's fair. And it's if you go back to every coach, I think every coach Washington has brought in here, with the exception of Jim Zorn, everybody was optimistic about for a year. And Gibbs was different, so I'm going to take Joe Gibbs out of this.
Yeah.
But all these other coaches, but
Hmm.
Zorn, Shanahan, Gruden, Rivera, everybody was optimistic for about a
Well,
year,
you
and then
always
it
get
went
a
south.
1 year honeymoon. Sure.
Right. So I don't know if what we're seeing is any different than any other coach.
It's and
They're not
I know it's hard
improving.
to say,
See,
but it's like with the presidency. Every president gets the first year as like a honeymoon.
if you're
You
Joe
know,
Biden, you got about a week, but yeah,
so I
generally
mean,
speaking,
well,
yeah.
it's shortened over every presidency gets shorter,
You
but
got about 3 days if you're Joe Biden.
yeah, you
Deservedly
get it.
so.
But in theory, you get a honeymoon.
Right.
Like, and that's what it is with coaches too. And that honeymoon, I think for Gibbs could have done it for 10 years and could have had like a 400
You
record
got
and
to
no one
take him
cared.
out of it. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not. Yeah,
Joe Gibbs is a saint in this town.
deservedly so. But
Sure.
here's the thing. What I thought ultimately what we would see in 2021 is maybe a better team that had a worse or same record just because the schedule was so
Hmm.
ridiculous this year. Um,
But
and
it
that
feels like they've regressed, doesn't it?
yes, they're not getting better. I was hoping they'd be better and making improvements, just losing to a whole bunch of good teams, but they're not better and they're
No.
still losing. So I'm disappointed in that regard.
Well, so let me ask you. I know we've kind of ended the
It's all
show
right.
three times
What are
now.
you guys gonna, are we gonna get cut off by
If
the
you,
radio station?
right, exactly. Let me ask you this: is the offense now better or worse than it was for the most of last year?
Well,
Try and take last year as a whole, because last year we had 5 quarterbacks or whatever. It's
last
tricky.
year's almost a wasted year offensively because of the
Sure.
quarterback situation was such a disaster. Um, in some ways, they're worse. They seem to be
Are they just treading water?
more disjointed this year than they were last year. Maybe
Mm.
maybe that's I don't. I mean, I don't have an objective. I could look at numbers and stuff, but just like subjectively, I thought they were better running team last. They looked like they were more together and with it running wise a little bit last year, and
I think that has to do with the line changes.
but yeah, certainly so. And even passing wise, there were times when Terry dominated.
Right.
Logan Thomas was out there, and he's not there this year. So I think the
Even though
offense,
Alex Smith didn't have an arm, he made good decisions. That was part
yes,
of it too.
and he never did. Very rarely, everybody does something sometimes, but he very rarely did stupid things. He just
Right.
didn't have an arm and all of that. So I would say the offense is subjectively, not numbers, objective, not stats wise. Subjectively, my observation is that it's worse and it has regressed.
You think it's
Yes.
regressive? So I mean, obviously the defense has. I think there's no question about that. But in my mind, the offense is about the same. It's hard to say when you've kind of changed quarterbacks and stuff like that. But I think that's a different. That's really the question. No one doubts the defense is worse, but has the offense gotten better or worse?
I think it's regressed. I mean,
You
and the
think it's
quarterback,
regressed? I think it's about the same.
well, a quarterback thing, it's just another year in Redskins quarterbacks, for God's sakes. Just
Right.
another carousel. The only stability they've had ever, they've had 2 periods of stability since the Super Bowl era in the 90s, and that was with Jason Campbell, who was at least an average NFL quarterback, and Kirk Cousins, who had his issues and all that, but he was at least consistent. You know,
so those are the only two very average quarterbacks.
Yeah, and that's proven out with Cousins in Minnesota. Right. But those point is that's the only stability this team's had at quarterback. This year's just another one because Fitzpatrick's going to come back, and unless Heineke shows dramatic improvement over the next couple of weeks, because don't forget the bye is coming up in 2 weeks, right?
Right.
I see the bye is. I'm going to go to the schedule, which is on our website too.
It's week 8, I believe.
The bye is week 9, and so they've got the Packers and the Broncos.
Oh, right.
And then the bye, and so you got to figure that Fitzpatrick's probably back in week 10.
Right.
And then if you think that this team's going to look better at the Packers, you're mistaken. And so the only hope here is that they have a rebound against the Broncos in which the offense could look better.
Yeah, I mean I think we've talked about that before with the schedule. Yeah, man. And I'll let our fans know I'm going to be on vacation next week, so I'm not going to miss not seeing them get their butts kicked by the Packers.
We could probably replay some of your comments and they would apply to the next week as well.
Yeah, we probably could just create you a soundboard or something of just me yelling about this team.
I'll just we'll just cut your comments up and I'll just insert them.
You could go find when we played the Packers 4 years ago. Oh no, we beat them 4 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, in the regular season, and then they lost in the playoffs.
Damn it. Right. Okay, so you'd have to go find that game from the playoffs and just get my sound bites from then, and it'd be good.
But you could even a lot of the comments could apply to any game, though. We could take your comments, and they would be fair and accurate, you know, on any given week. You know, and if you let's see, head to head, I'm looking at Packers real fast. We got to go here, get off the air. But Packers all games. Here we go. Okay, so the last time they played the Packers was 2019, 20-15 loss. That was on December 8th, and then the game before that was the year before. Washington won 31-17 in 2000, and then they beat them again 42-24 in 2016.
Yep.
So they have a pretty good history.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. Yeah. Washington still okay. So my mom was 8 months pregnant with me the last time Washington beat the Chiefs, and that streak continues. So there we go. That should wrap up the show.
Boy, that really says something.
Right? 38 years old. They beat them September 18th, 1983. My mom, I was born October 9th. So, you know. My mom was 8 months pregnant. All right, guys. We will talk to you on Wednesday, and then I'm going to go on my trip to the tropics for a few days. So,
it'll be
later,
more
guys.
fun than watching the game.
Absolutely. Bye.